and welcome. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of Forming Impact, a global network of entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and creatives who share their knowledge, skills, passions, and resources to drive change and forge sustainable solutions to some of the world's greatest challenges. She is a global thought leader in sustainable development and strategic partnerships, and she is the founder of the Forming Sustainable Development Foundation, a nonprofit organization that forges partnerships aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. A master connector and collaborator, her current projects focus on education, well-being, peace, and sustainability. Please welcome to the show, Fiona McIntyre. Hi, Fiona. It is so great to see you. I know you have just arrived back in Scotland and it is quite late there. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Of course, it's so lovely to see you, Ellie. It's been far too long, but it's wonderful to see you, and thank you for having me today. Really nice. After being in the US for 2 weeks, I miss you, and I finally get back to Scotland and now get to connect with you virtually again.
Absolutely. It's amazing how the world works. Now, you are so passionate about collaboration and impact and sustainability. What was the genesis of that?
Do you know, it probably stemmed before I even knew what my real purpose was. I've always loved people. I've loved connection. I've been that introvert extrovert where I love to be around people. I love to be sharing ideas, talking about the world in a bigger aspect, not just the small chat or, the surface talk. I like to go deep fast, and I like to find out what people are working on. Even from when I was younger, I was always asking why. And as I grew up, I started to get to understand my purpose more. And through a lot of learning and development, exploring the world and exploring some different opportunities, as I discovered what my purpose was in terms of actually building with people and helping them accelerate through their adversity and actually finding ways in which they could bring their purpose to life, the same way I'd found that my purpose was to bring theirs to life, and was actually the genesis and the start to what is now Forming Impact. Originally, we had called it Changemakers, Rule Breakers, and I was always keen to be around people who were changing the rules and also breaking the rules to make them better, to make a more sustainable and positive world, because actually a lot of the rules that are made that we live by are old and the world's changing fast. So it's wonderful to actually be a change maker, rule breaker, and surround myself with those people. They're the ones that keep me thinking bigger. And I quite often find myself in rooms. In fact, I like to say most of the time I'm in a room where I am the dumbest person in the room surrounded by exceptionally smart people. And I love to find ways in which I can understand what they're doing, what their purpose is, what they care about, and connecting them with others that are aligned within that room and aligned around the world outside of that room too, but potentially within our network or within my network.
That is amazing. Now, you have quite the network. How did you build that?
Good question. From a younger age, it probably started when I started to realize that I wasn't just shy. I actually wanted to know more about people, and I wanted to know more people. I wanted to understand the world more. And so as I got older, I realized the best way to do that was to meet new people and to throw myself into places that I could actually do so. So from even my quite young teenage years, I started opening doors that were, knocking on doors and opening doors to find different opportunities. And that being in high school, starting my own business, encouraged, actually, I was very lucky, encouraged by a program within high school at that time. In university, it was the same. It was starting to find the people that spoke the same language as me, or that had interest in the bigger world that was out there outside of just Scotland. And from that early age, it was finding kind of opportunities such as the entrepreneurial school within my university and taking extracurricular classes, and then following programs such as the Saltire Foundation, which is within Scotland, doing their internship program, which I applied for. And it was 5 months of of kind of grueling interviews and getting to know what was going on and finding different business opportunities that I could also learn who I was, but also engage with new people. I didn't just want to know, I feel like Scotland's quite a small place, even though it's an incredible place. I wanted to find more people and get to know them better. And so I've actually spent a lot of my journey learning who people are as a friend, as what they care about in the world. So, like I said previously, in terms of what their purpose is and what they like to do for business, and diving into that on a deeper level. But I'm always looking for new opportunities to learn, to meet new people through that learning, share experiences with people. So I've lived in quite a few different countries. But build while I'm doing it. I'm not much of a partier. I have had a few party days, but I love purposeful travel. I love experiences that lead to opportunities and to learn about what's happening in a location or get to know the culture. And that's how I've actually diversified and opened up my network more.
That's amazing. So, for somebody who has that sense of curiosity that
Mhm.
you're referencing of how does the world work and who are you and what is your passion and ooh, what are you building and how can I help? For someone who has that curiosity but hasn't yet really cultivated the network that you have, I think that's a really powerful tip that you shared, and so I want to highlight it of find the network, find your tribe, find people who think like you, who are curious like you, find the people who are interested in the same causes that you're interested in, and then take action. To your point, you said you sought them out, you applied. Take the action to get into proximity with those people or to become part of the programs where you can learn. So, I love all of the actionable tools and strategies, all those nuggets that you so gracefully just wove in to that answer. That's amazing. So, you're a master at putting yourself into proximity with like minded people, with change makers, with innovators, with people who are really thinking bigger. What have you learned by being in those communities?
Great question, Ellie. And thanks so much for diving into those tools. Sometimes I don't think we even realize those tools are coming out of our mouths as we're saying them. Um, but some of the things I've learned, gosh, here's some of the big things I've learned. That not everyone has to have come in the same journey or a perfect journey or even a great journey to be who they want to be. In fact, sometimes it's through adversities. So, through our hard times, not getting the position we wanted in university or work, or not getting the location. Maybe your university is on the other side of the state than you wanted it to be. That does not change, in my opinion, that does not change who you can be.
Yeah.
It's about what you can seek out and find. In the unusual areas and in the usual areas. So when you're in university, go and find what else is happening in your local area, or if you move country, go and find what else is happening. When I have been around the similar-minded people and people way smarter than me and super successful people, a few things have always shown up for me is that hard work does prevail. And so that doesn't mean burn yourself into the ground. It means be focused, be clear on what you're doing, and try and avoid some of the shiny things in life where we can, and kind of keep on track for what you're doing. Um, I do think, and I do. I have one thing I have really learned, and I've experienced it too, but it's hit home for me, is that it can be a lonely journey to entrepreneurship or to success, because there's things that along the way we have to give up. And so being aware that at certain times when life is wonderful and great, there's still some things that you might actually have to give up to level up and go to the next level. And then I would say it's about enjoying the journey. It's Nothing is easy. Not well, and if it's easy, everyone's doing it. But
Right.
when it's business, it's about tenacity, it's about direction, it's about consistency and discipline as well. Discipline's been a huge one, and that I've seen in the network. Being disciplined enough, like I said before, not to go after the shiny things, but be really clear and always consistently show up. One thing with myself personally, I've always felt no matter what was going on in my life, if I've committed to something, I'll show up.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Um, whether you're moving country or whether you are hosting an event and it's COVID, but you've set a date
Yeah.
and you've said it's going to happen, show up.
Yeah.
And you can't, I mean, after against all odds, if you can be there and you can be there, then you're there on purpose. Um, there's so many learnings. Also, here's a big one that I have learned a lot too. To scale and grow, find others around you that speak the same language, that understand the mission and the values, and know the project as well as you, or even 70% as well as you, and pass on responsibility. If it's your baby and you've been working on it, pass it over and see if someone else can help, can take a big portion of the work so that you can start to apply yourself elsewhere too. It's very hard to make huge impact in the world if you're taking on every single task yourself. So building really strong teams that are culturally aligned within your organization, and everyone is on the same learning and everyone is on the same journey in terms of the values, that's huge. That's really huge.
Absolutely. So you again have shared so many powerful, actionable tools and golden nuggets in that eloquent answer. So I love the idea that really, when you are purposeful, when you are aligned, that gives you the fuel to focus. It gives you the fuel to persevere. I mean, you mentioned discipline, dedication, avoiding shiny object syndrome, staying focused, staying aligned, having to do the hard things, having to make the sacrifices or the hard choices. I love also your point of you don't have to go it alone. It may feel lonely, but you don't have to go it alone. And when you surround yourself with people who see your vision, who hold your vision, who are aligned in mission and purpose, then you are able to turn over your baby, as you mentioned, to them. You can delegate so that you can continue to innovate, so that you can continue to lead and bring your bigger vision to life. So that's just the tip of the iceberg of these amazing nuggets that you just delivered. And I think it is incredibly powerful. Collaboration is key, right? We go further faster when we collaborate. So I want to tie it back to forming impact. You mentioned that it used to be change makers, rule breakers. And then now it is forming impact. What did those words mean to you?
Yeah, Ellie, those words mean a lot to me, but actually, it was really decided by the community as such, because we are forming impact with the change makers, rule breakers of the world. And at a time when we had been 5 years in, we were starting to realize that actually what was happening when we came together was we were forming impact. And it was one day in 2018, I all of a sudden I'd come off of a few different phone calls with some different people in the community and friends, and realized that what was going on was we were forming impact together when we were in person. And when we continued on after, the ripple effect of that was amplifying and amplifying. And it was being able to capture what was happening in words, which is what became forming impact. And with forming impact, it not only kind of describes so well what happens when we're together, but it felt so much more about what was going to be happening next. Not just what was happening as we came together, but what was happening after. Because as we all know, when you take a trip, whatever kind of trip, those memories last with you, and that travel changes you. That experience changes a little bit of you or a big part of you, that you'll never quite be the same once you've been exposed to an experience that changes you. It's like experiential learning, for us and for me, has been one of the most critical parts of what we do and what I've experienced in my life. And it has dramatically changed the way I think, the way I see the world, the way I find opportunities and see opportunities. And so that's where the name has come to be, Forming Impact. And I'm so thrilled. Actually, the name came to me and was available because we all know in this age, it's harder and harder to find sometimes the exact words that replicate what we are doing, and also find that it's actually still available in the world.
Absolutely. And that is in fact what you are doing. You are in fact forming impact and then really going forward and serving and amplifying. That ripple effect is profound. Now, you mentioned the travel, you mentioned locations and the inspiring locations. Now, you hold your flagship events on Necker Island, the home of Sir Richard Branson. Why there, of all places?
Mhm. Yes, that is exactly where we host them, and it is a very special place. And I was so thrilled to have you join us last March, Ellie. In fact, next week it will be a year anniversary from us all being together. Um, Necker is a very special place in my heart, and I believe everyone that has joined us has a special place in their heart. It's a very magical place that Richard has built with such intention, and for me, it was from walking on the island. There's a magic. It's hard to quite explain it until you've been, but there is a magic there. And so one thing that the started that was that it was on purpose that I went there originally, but to create and to bring together like minds was what left with me when I left.
Mm.
And I wanted to share that experience of what I had taken from that particular location, because it was not just the way my mind changed there, although I didn't have a platform to have it changed. It was the scenery, it was the environment, it was how Richard has creatively put together this wonderful island to allow you to be the best version of you in terms of have as much fun as possible, be very thoughtful in the way that we see and do things, have unavoidable 360-degree views, which is one of the things that I think is so incredible about Ireland and that particular island. You can stand in many spots on that island, and all around you, nothing is blocking our view. It's, we have to go quite far out of our cities to start to see way beyond our eye can see, where it's uninterrupted. And for me, that's what Necker hosts as well. It holds a space for uninterrupted thinking, innovation, which is so inspiring when we are trying to get away from our day-to-day grind, which is most often in an office environment, wall environment, home environment now, or even computer environment, and really level ourselves back to that helicopter view of what we're doing in the world, and not our day-to-day tasks and how we're doing them, but actually why. Necker has, ever since I've been, has held a big place in my heart, both on a personal level, going on more vacation trips, and on a more professional level, where I'm creating experiences for people. And we've continued that vibe in other places. So when I look for other locations, I'm looking to find that same sort of magic. And it means so much to us and to me that Richard's part of that when we're there, as it's his home. So he gets to open up and share and host, as the homeowner of this island, and actually share why he created so much of what's there.
Yeah, the intentionality is profound because it really permeates every single detail.
Mm-hmm.
It does. You're absolutely right that Necker is a magical place. It forces you to dream bigger, to think bigger, to remove the limits that we may place on ourselves with the limiting beliefs and the negative self-talk and all of that programming that so many of us have had. It's really a place to set that aside. And so, speaking of negative programming and self-doubt and fear and all the things, when you're not on Necker and those thoughts and feelings come up, I mean, you mentioned earlier the road of entrepreneurship is not an easy one. So when those fears and doubts and limiting beliefs come up, the imposter syndrome and all those kind of things, how do you navigate them?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Ellie. I think it's such an important question. And I think potentially a more important question than ever before because, gosh, I think I have those feelings, I have those thoughts. I think we all do. And if we don't, I would push you to kind of think bigger, because if you're not having those thoughts, I'm not sure you're fully on your right purpose, because you should be questioning yourself. Am I crazy? Every so often when you're on your true purpose and you're striving to make a change in the world. For me, it's a really good question because, as you mentioned earlier, I travel quite a lot too, and routine means quite a lot to me. Um, I am very focused on movement. So actually, there was four things that I used to say during COVID that I kept aware of every single day, and it was sight. So make sure I'm seeing nice things around me. So if you're stuck at home, make sure you're not just sitting in front of your computer or the TV. Make sure you're, opening your and broadening your horizons in terms of what you can see. Here, make sure you're listening to good things. So for me, with those first two, sight is I try and get outside every single day for a walk or a run or something. When I'm traveling, it's usually a little easier, because when you're traveling, you're seeing a lot of new sights and you're seeing a lot of new things. Try and, even if you're meant to be in the office all the time, try and break out of that office while it's still sunlight, while it's still bright outside. Hopefully rain, hail or shine. I live in Scotland. Sometimes it's rain, hail and shine all in one day, but if you get out, it's important. um Listening to positive things as well. So see, on the days where I'm not having the best days, if I can get to the gym early morning, or I can do a yoga class, then that helps me massively. If I'm on the treadmill or I'm on a cross trainer, I have a podcast blasting in my ears, a TED talk, a YouTube positive affirmation video or audio or something, or sometimes even it's just like my favorite playlist. Whether it's one that the girls have made and we're in a group chat together and we're all listening to the same thing, or it keeps me on track. Touch, just being aware sometimes with anxiety or any of those things. It's just being aware that we're human, and don't forget, live in the present moment. So sometimes it's whether it's if you can touch an animal. I used to have a dog, or if you can touch the trees or be outdoors or do yoga on the ground. During COVID, I spent a lot of time in my garden doing yoga, bare feet, bare hands, straight in that grass, and ground yourself. Sight, sound, what are the other ones? Touch, and there's another one, but I can't remember it now. I'll come back to you later on that.
Yeah, it's so important, right? So important to be mindful of your environment, your physical environment, your mental environment, to stand guard at the gate of your mind, right? To be very mindful of what you are allowing into your physical space, into your body, through nutrition, through sleep, through hydration, into what you're allowing into your mind through what you're watching, what you're listening to. And I love that last point of being present, of touching to ground yourself. So many of us in the hustle and bustle and the endless to-do list can kind of live out here on autopilot. And so I think that's a really valuable tool that you just gave, where touch, get present, feel the ground beneath your feet, feel the chair beneath your legs, feel the refrigerator handle in your hand, whatever the case may
As
be.
you reach for that snack.
Yes, the healthy snack.
The snack.
The healthy snack, so you are fueling your body to give you the best outcome. I think those are, again, really valuable, easy to implement tools for our audience. Now, you have had the privilege to call some of the greatest thought leaders in the world your friends. We talked about Richard a little bit. What's the best advice that you have received from them?
Great question. I could go deep here. Goodness me. The best advice: live your life. Live your life. Don't burn yourself into the ground for work, because then you're losing the point of why we work so hard and do what we do. Make sure that you're having fun along the way. You're taking time out for yourself. You're enjoying the journey. I think I've said that earlier on as well. Enjoying that journey, and being aware of what you want. If you want a family, make sure you spend time with your family. If that's one of your core values, make sure that is one of the things that is on top of your priority list every single day. Look after yourself, self-care, self-love. I've been in situations where I've moved country, unexpectedly, not necessarily what I chose to do, but for knowing that my future would be better if I made those choices, and knowing that you've got your support network around you. We can't do life alone. We aren't built to do life alone. And I've learned that through my network, and them reaching out to me, and some of the most incredible people in the world, in my opinion, have reached out to me and said, "Are you okay?" And asked, "And what do you need? And how can I support?" And I'm happy that you're happier, and happy that you're in a more safe and secure environment now. And so those things are, those are some of the things that I've learned from as friendship. We are all human. Um, Being a friend to someone else is so important. And yeah, it's choosing what you want in life, not just work. So yes, your purpose can be work focused, but I totally believe we have a personal purpose and we have a kind of life purpose, and that be business, life, creation purpose. So just make sure that both align and you're focusing on both, so you're not burning yourself too far into the ground and forgetting what life is all about. And actually being impactful as a human is about being impactful to ourselves, impactful to those close to us, and then impactful to the world around.
Amazing. So you mentioned self-care. You mentioned the need to not burn yourself into the ground. So what are some of your self-care practices?
Great question. I actually just was very lucky. I just flew in after being away for 2 weeks, did 4 cities in 2 weeks, and I went for a massage last night, and it was heaven. But I don't often do that. Do you know, I'm getting better at reminding myself to look after myself. But self-care practices for me, which are really important: good sleep, making sure that I get a good amount of sleep each night. Sometimes I work too late, sometimes I wake up too early. We're the same, Ellie. We work on different time zones all around the world. My global clock does not stop. Then it's eating healthy. For me, probably my number two after sleep is eating healthy. I eat a very clean diet. I'm very conscious of what I put into my body. I find it harder when I travel, but I still will be careful with how I eat while I travel. And I find it's one of the most important things that actually keeps my mind calm and my body at peace too. Yoga. Absolutely love yoga, partly because the last 15 minutes of every yoga class I do has a 15-minute meditation. And hands up, meditation is one of the most incredible things and most powerful ways in which we can calm our minds, especially as entrepreneurs or creatives, innovators, investors, CEOs. We bombard our minds with so much pressure, information, things to think about. I mean, as a leader, we're often thinking about everyone else before ourselves too. Meditation gives you that time where you just tap out of all the noise and just into clarity. And it's sometimes actually where I get most of my creative clarity from, as well as travel. I love to travel for creative thoughts and reconnecting with people, and that inspires me. But yeah, my self-care, I'll be honest, I'm an extrovert as well, and so I need to be around people, but I need my introvert to power me up. So I need alone time and quiet time. I love to read as well, and I read quite on purpose books, so I'm very conscious of what I'm absorbing. I'm not a massive Netflix. I don't get me wrong, love a series, love a box set, love a good movie, but I don't sit in front of the TV for hours. I'm quite an active soul, and that's actually passed down through my parents too. So I can't take all that on. It's just me. It's just the way I'm built. But yeah, I find those self-care things are so important. Movement is huge. I think especially now we get to move again, being outdoors, fresh air, quite often, if I've been working nonstop for 3 days, 4 days sometimes, I used to be guilty of this where I would be like, "I'm not sure the last time I breathed fresh air." Like, you get into your car and you drive somewhere, or you're literally nonstop either in the office or at home, especially in COVID, it was at home. When was the last time you actually went on a nice long walk,
Yeah.
took in fresh air, not just city air if you can, try and get further out. Luckily in Scotland, it's a little bit easier. It's maybe 20 minutes to be in, the Highlands, the start of the Highlands anyway. But that is very important as well. And so that's some of mine.
Amazing. So what keeps you going? You mentioned, working global hours, working tirelessly, and you have a solid self-care practice.
Mhm.
But what keeps you going?
Okay, yeah, what keeps me going? My purpose, the people around me, my my desire to make an impact that doesn't necessarily affect me, but affects those that I care most about.
Mm.
And the family is what comes out of my events. So at Ellie's, I feel like you can vouch for this too. We build connections that are not just surface level. And so when you build those connections, you care about those people massively. And so as I go on that journey, for me, that's what keeps me going. Others do keep me going. I keep myself going, but really, honestly, sometimes I think if there was no one else around, well, I would just sit back and relax. But for me, it's very much about the impact I can make in the world, and that's actually why we've formed the foundation as well. It allowed us to be more on purpose with some of the actions that we do within the community. So the foundation is set up to support the community as well as outside of our community, what other projects are going on in the world. And my work means the world to me. For me, it's on purpose work. And so, like you said before, on the hard days, that's what keeps me going as well. Knowing that in the end, even through the hard days, I get some really wonderful days. Some of them are spent on Necker, some of them are spent at home too. But some of them are sometimes spent on the phone talking to some of my favorite people who I've been lucky enough to meet because of what we've created through Forming Impact and the foundation as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned the foundation. Tell us a little bit more about your Forming Sustainable Development Foundation.
Yes, of course. So it's a newer addition. We have been raising funds for a long time through our events and our experiences, and now it was so important. Actually, gave me time during COVID to put more time into the back end of what that meant and what that looked like. And so for the last 2 years, we've been building out and launched our 501(c)(3 Forming Sustainable Development. It allows us to activate partnerships for the goals. So we're aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. And that has been a very big part of the impact for us. It's a wonderful set of what I like to think is benchmarks and goals for everyone in the world to look at and pick one of those 17 goals in which they can align and make an impact personally or professionally, that's been created by the United Nations. And so for the foundation, overarching theme of the foundation is that we are focused on partnerships for the goals, which is a multi-stakeholder effect to make an impact in the world. Because what we've really seen, and I'm sure you have seen too, is that the most change we can make is when we have multi-stakeholders talking the same language on the same page to actually make a difference. And so that being your public sector, private sector, governments, NGOs, individuals, small enterprises and large enterprises, all coming together aligned to make the same difference in the world. And so one of our biggest projects, in fact, one of the main reasons why I was just traveling was the foundation. We have a board that we've created through two companies, Bridge Institute and Forming Sustainable Development Foundation, to bring to the US the Young Leaders Summit, which was started in Singapore. And we have brought it to the US to activate basically young leaders between 15 and 25 to actually go on a journey of what can be done in the world through innovation, entrepreneurship, and creation, and be change makers of the future, aligning with the government. So local state government, or in Singapore it was with the government, taking ideas and taking some of the biggest problems or biggest issues that the government were dealing with, and passing some of those streams over to young minds who are thoughtful leaders, who want to learn more about leadership, who want to do more in the world, and who want to be the future change makers. And that doesn't mean that they have the best grades. It doesn't mean they come from the top school. It means that they care about making a difference to the world. And I personally feel like this is so important because I was lucky to have experienced what I did, even though I chased those experiences. I want others to have the chance to have the same upbringing and development that I had between 15 and 25, to know that they can create what they want to create in the world, the most positive change that can be made. And it's helping accelerate that. So that's one of our first main projects for this year. And we have some other projects aligning with around peace. So we have a few partners in the peace space. But for us, it's very much about not reinventing the wheel, but partnering with incredible people in our network that are doing great things and finding ways to help activate that through our community and our network, the resources, and being resourceful with the resources that are within our network. So sometimes reinventing the wheel is what's needed, but for us, we just decided that partnerships was going to be our overarching theme.
Amazing. So, absolutely. I mean, you can go so much further faster with the partnerships and without reinventing the wheel. You can innovate the wheel, but you don't need to reinvent it. And so I love that you are very intentional and creating these purposeful partnerships that are going to allow you to impact so many more lives much faster and on a deeper level. So let's imagine that you have come to the end of your life best lived. You have collaborated, you have networked, you have formed impact, your nonprofit is creating the next generation of change makers, rule breakers, of innovators. What do you want them to say about you?
Wow, nice question. Goodness, well, luckily, a few years ago, I wrote my eulogy, because otherwise, I think in this moment, I might be thinking, I'm not sure. And I have to actually open my mind a little bit because I've not read it in a while, which is naughty of me because I used to read it quite often. In fact, I think as you asked this question, I think it's such a beautiful practice. A friend of mine introduced me to it just after an experience in my life that probably I needed to start to reset some of my intentions and some of my mindset. And that was to write my eulogy. And that's your best life lived, end of story. And that basically said something along the lines that I lived my purpose out loud. I was aligned with my purpose. I activated projects of impact around the world that made massive change, both on a global scale, but also on a local scale with my local communities as well. That the foundation will continue on as a legacy project way beyond my years. That forming impact in not only continues its experiences, but increases the opportunities of experiential learning, experiential change, and the connection of incredible change makers and rule breakers around the world. Because I absolutely believe that when you find others that speak your language, you not only feel like you've got your tribe, but you feel you've got that support to really create everything that you hoped and dreamed for in the world. And I hope that also my family look back and say exactly what I did was what I wanted to create, that I left people's lives better than I found them, and that I made people smile along the way. And if that could be what happened, and honestly, I think that would be my life best lived.
Amazing. And so it is. And
Mm.
so it is. Now, as we wrap up our time together today, how can people reach out to you? How can they connect with you? And how can they find out more about Forming Impact and the foundation and the other projects that you're working on?
Thanks, Ellie. Yes, so best ways to connect is at formingimpact.com. You can connect with us directly through there. Also, as it's with you, the best email probably to come to one of my team or myself is hello@formingimpact.com. And then LinkedIn, social media. I'm not a massive social media user, but we have Forming Impact social medias. So whether that be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or again, LinkedIn, me directly. LinkedIn is a great space to find me. If you ping an email to hello at, I pick up some of them, and my team pick up the rest, but I most likely will get that if it's directed to me. And yeah, and through yourself as well, Ellie, and through the channel, if anyone wants to reach out, then more than happy to do that as a friend of yours. These are friends of mine.
Amazing. Yes, reach out to Fiona, learn more about Forming Impact, learn more about the good that she is doing in the world, get involved with the foundation, and be the change, right?
Be the change that we wish to see in the world.
Yeah,
And let's change the world together, as we both say.
absolutely. So, as we sign off, any parting words you'd like to share?
Keep going. You know, we've gone through a crazy few years. I think some people have worked harder than ever. Some people are maybe a little bit more confused. Some people feel more on purpose than ever as well. And just keep going, because we're all in this together. We started our lives together. We started COVID together. Life is better together. We're humans. We're built for connection. Don't shy away. Some of the most incredible people in the world just want to share what they have created, what they believe to see in the world is a better world, and they want to connect and actually make it happen. So never shy away. Step into your light, keep going, and we're all here together.
Better together. Let's do this. Till next time.